This conference will now be recorded. This conference is no longer being recorded. This conference will now be recorded.
Okay.
I'm so confused.
Are we recorded? Okay. Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming. Tonight is our special meeting for the December 2nd Board of Trustees agenda to discuss the budget for 2026. Do the roll call, David.
Ms. Johnson?
Here.
Mr. Genowine?
Here.
Mr. Mahoney?
Here.
Simcoe here.
Then we'll stand for the pledge of allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All righty. We'll dive right in with Rob in the Road Service Department. Hi.
Good afternoon, Trustees and Fiscal Officer Simcoe. We'll start with the Road and Bridge Fund. Thank you for your time in reviewing the budget and for participating in the workshop. With me, the budget team is Imran, Mirza, UP staff, and briefly also. Before we start, I wanted to thank them for their efforts and for the departments and their teams. So each year, we present an analysis of how each of the major funds has performed during the current fiscal year. So for the road and bridge fund, we had estimated that we would close this current fiscal year with just over $5.15 million. We're actually on target to close the fiscal year with just over $6.15 million. Approximately $755,000 of that is attributed to the revaluation. And because the 2.3 mils collected for the road and bridge fund is inside millage, the inside millage moves with the increase of so that level of carryover and the carryover that's projected by the end of 2026 will result in fund balance of just about 110%. This fund does have a lot of varying expenditures based on the nature of the services and the scale of the projects that are considered. There's 5-year history, including the current fiscal year and next fiscal year, that shows the general carryover of the road and bridge fund. Some additional considerations, the 2026 county budget rates do reflect the increase from revaluation. Total revenues have increased between the current fiscal year and the proposed budget by just over 26.6%. And the expenses have increased just over 24%, which is in line with the OPWC bulk share in 2026 being derived from the road and bridge fund. So with the major projects that will rotate between the different road funds, the expenses are being drawn from, in large part, from this fund. In terms of the number of team members, there's 20 authorized permanent positions, includes a superintendent, the foreman, the assistant foreman, the fleet maintenance supervisor, 4 mechanics, 12 utility workers, and 1 maintenance worker. We do have 1 overlap position right now with the mechanic with an expected retirement next year. That number will go to 3 mechanics.
Are you going to hire a 4th?
So there's an overlap position right now. So typically there's 3 permanent mechanic positions.
Got it.
So yeah.
Thank you.
Some additional information for the board. There's been previous discussion about the ability of the township to implement the permissive motor vehicle tax. That would be an increase from $5 to $10 for the amount that is received locally. It would generate an extra $185,400 per year. There's a listing of other jurisdictions that have this in place. During 2026, approximately $637,600 in funding, in grant funding from the state will be used for the Safe Routes to School project. This has been in planning process process for a number of years, and the actual construction will be occurring in 2026. $200,000 is continuing to be transferred into the capital fund, the road and bridge fund, to be used for the Silver Road project. And there's also a listing of major expenses and major projects, the purchase of a hook loader, the skid steer, and projects including storm and water drainage work in Lathrop Place, and resurfacing in Park Place and Grand Crossings. An update on the Silver Road project. Right now, the project is currently estimated at just over $15.5 million. We're awaiting a proposal for owner's rep services from Miller Diversified, and also going through the process of receiving external financial recommendations for the board's review from Plant Moran. Contingent on the next steps in the process, bond issuance would involve a financial advisor and the bond counsel. So right now we're going through the final estimation process, at which point we'll bring the plans and the total project in front of the board for further review and approval. After which point we go to project bidding. And there'd be a coordination of the bond issuance with any bidding. Lastly, updates on other funds outside of the main fund. Nothing major to report outside of standard operations. We do have a project that's planned for the cemetery for updating the records and record keeping. But at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Superintendent Nash for any updates he may wish to share.
I covered most of them. I don't really have any major updates. The next year's OPWC grant funding would be at 29.4% for that total project for Lathrop Park, in the storm sewer and road improvement project. The pieces of equipment referred to earlier, the replacements for the budget, those two pieces of equipment are over 20 years old. They exceeded their lifespan by 5 years, but we were able to keep them in service and replace them. Additional piece of equipment which may or may not have seen was a refrigerant machine. A lot of the EPA requirements for ozone refrigerants are being updated and to the new system. Most of the police cars coming into service now have a new system, so we have to buy a new machine. And currently, we do have a personnel on staff trained for that new machine and licensed. You have to be licensed to handle it. So, pretty good. The additional project in the parklands, Grand Crossings, those are all your basic mill and fill, curb to curb, resurfacing projects. No other major projects. Be some concrete curb work and catch basin repairs prior to that. Nothing else. Currently, we're at 140.82 miles according to ODOT of our townships and alley miles. That does come into play with some funding in regards to us. That's kind of a lagging number. Our actual miles are probably more like 142 and a half. Those tend to not get calculated and put into the system until the plats are complete, but we are maintaining, plowing, doing things like that on the system already. So, any additional questions or comments, I'd be happy to answer them.
Can we go back to the 26 number budget, please? So that bond that you're looking at selling off, is that, would you make monthly payments on that, like a home mortgage? When you sell bonds?
When bonds are issued.
So you'll pay it over 10 years or whatever the bond is gonna allow for?
Right.
Prime plus a point or so, whatever?
The Silver Road project.
Yeah.
Right, that would be for a period of 30 years.
Okay, so if you go back one more, Sam, it's over 30 years?
It would be over 30 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Keep going back to the number. I just got a stupid question for you. Why is it $700,000 less in expected? Keep going back to the numbers.
Oh, are there more? This?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
So I'm just curious, we're plus 24%. No, go back one more to the funding amounts. There we go. So if you look at 26, I'm just curious, but why is there 800,000 less in the fund for next year?
Expenditures on the projects.
The new project for the build? Okay.
So, approximately 10 years ago, we had made a conscious decision that the roads were not being maintained at the rate of deterioration. So at current rate, at 140.82 miles, which we actually have more, but that's what we sign off on as an entity in the state that we maintain, but we do maintain more than that. But at that rate, an average lifespan of the roads roughly 20 to 25 years. So I take the lesser of the number, I use the 20-year mark, and you need to replace 7.19 miles a year at our current rate. Back 10 years ago, we were doing 2.5 to 3 miles a year. And when Mr. Crandall was here, one of my guidance from him, from the board, you guys, was to increase that rate to keep up with the road maintenance. So we went from 3 miles a year. Last year, we did roughly around 6 miles. And by 2028, I have us at 7.11. So as we go up, of course, the numbers increase for the costs, for the mileage. So next year's increase also takes into consideration the larger project for the storm sewer work in Lakeport Park.
Okay, thank you.
So, but I think that does increase and change the dynamics of the mileage and the cost of the project.
Yeah, just a couple of add-ons. So that significant expense this year is drawn from the main fund, 204. But for example, last year, the gas tax fund contributed a significant amount for OPWC projects. So those larger projects will go between the different funds. And then we typically try to take a conservative budgeting approach to be conservative of expenditures.
We have been rotating some of the funds that are applicable that you can use for road maintenance. Vicki and I and the team have came up with a way to try and keep those other funds that weren't being utilized as much to help out the main road and bridge fund. Vicki, if she got any comments, you can explain it probably better. But every year we sit down and we look at how much is in each fund and we determine how much we can take out of it. And we'll allocate so much out of each fund to help the road and bridge fund, which also, most of our payroll, everything comes out of that fund. So that helps with some of the projects. In 2026, I believe we have a larger portion of the projects coming out of that fund as well.
All right, thank you. Any questions on the board at all? All right. Well, thanks for your effort. All right. Hey, Chris.
Hi. Okay, with the fire fund, the estimate is that the current fiscal year would close with $5.888 million. We're on track to close with just over 5.8 for a difference of under 1.5%. The fund balance ratio, which compares our estimated closing at the end of next year with 2026 expenses, will be at 31.4%. Typically in line with best practices, for example, GFOA best practices, we aim for a 15 to 20% fund balance ratio. So that 31.44% is a good reflection that the fund is in sustainable condition. The position also includes donations from the public, so Louisville County Fire Department has received donations. That's included in the fund balance. It's reflected as an expense in the budget sheets that are distributed to the trustees. With the approval of the levy in 2024, that has ensured that the fiscal position of the fire fund will remain consistent through the 2030 fiscal year. In front of the trustees, they can see that the estimate is at the end of 2026, the main fire fund will close with just over $5.8 million. In terms of the specific amounts from the county revenues, the 2026 county budget rates are $16.421 million collected in property taxes. That includes the new levy that was approved. The total revenues for the fire department stand at over $18.5 million, which is roughly a 3.5% increase over the 2025 revenue. That does include an increased cost allocation from the ambulance and EMS fund, and there's a separate slide in this presentation with specific numbers. In terms of expenses, expenses are just over $18.5 million, very close to the revenues. 2025 expenses were just under $15.8 million, for an increase of about 17.4%. So the 2026 figures reflect an increase in capital transfer. Last year, I believe capital transfer in the budget was $1 million. This year is just over $1.8 million, with a significant portion of that going toward the tower project, the grounds and tower. It also includes the addition of the 3 firefighters who were hired post approval of the levy, which was included in the original fiscal year 2020, as well as the addition of 1 fire safety inspector, which was anticipated in the levy forecast. Just like was the case with the mechanics in the road department, the budget also includes some funds for some overlapping positions. There's at least 3 overlapping positions, and this is true with the police department as well, where the chiefs are trying to bring on additional team members, recognizing we'll have retirements and departures so that we can continue to be fully staffed. And there's also some increased expenses for personal protective equipment that are larger in fiscal year 2026 that we expect to come down next year as well.
How much money are we going to have in the capital account after we spent $1.8 million on the tower?
We have estimated that. I guess I'll start by saying I don't have the exact dollar amount, but when we estimate the capital account, we do it on a long-term basis. So we look at how much is coming in each year. Is it going to be sustainable through 2030? I'll get those figures.
I'm just curious. Thank you. So one last thing. So the 18 million minus the capital account. So really the expenses are up, but the capital account, we've been putting money in for years into that account, right? Kind of like what we do here for any buildings, right?
Right.
So it's not like it's, if I looked at that budget, I'd say we're spending 3 million, which we are. But $1 million of the 8 has been planned in a separate fund, right? It's not it's a separate fund, right?
Right, there's a separate.
Okay, that's what all right. Okay.
Exactly.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, this slide shows the increase in ambulance and EMS revenues. So at the end of 2022, during that fiscal year, it was over 825,000. Excuse me, that's the top portion of that shows the ambulance and EMS fund position, so the amount of carryover. At the end of 2022, there was 825,000 that was carried over. At the end of 2026, there will be just over 1.4 million that's carried over. In terms of the revenue history, the amount that's collected from the ambulance and EMS fund during the year, in 2022, it was just over $900,000. And we're estimating that in 2026, it would be 1.6 million. That's a conservative estimate. It will be likely to be closer to 1.7 million. And we did make a note that the Lucas County EMS consolidation was effective in August of 2024. So that does tie to some of the increase in the revenue. There will be the increase upkeep of vehicles at the same time. But in terms of the transfer history, the amount that's being transferred from Fund 228 to Fund 210, the main fire fund, that has increased over time as well. So in 2022, the amount that was being transferred to support positions, staff the ambulances, was just over $300,000, and in 2026, that's proposed to be just under $1 million. So given the significance of the transfers and the increase in revenues, wanted to include a separate slide for the board's awareness.
In terms of those revenues from the EMS, what's the volume of those runs? You know, so we got in 900,000 in 2022. Like what number of runs did we do for that number compared to the 1.6? How many runs are we doing?
Do not have that handy.
Okay,
I can get it to you.
it'd be interesting to know.
So that's strict, that would be strictly the transports that you're looking for.
Whichever ones we're doing the revenue.
Generates the revenue.
Okay, yeah,
Transport.
yes.
Okay, so,
Yeah.
we did that for you.
And I want to add, just before the meeting, I finalized the receipts from the ACHs to the end of November, and we're currently at $1,632,918, so we still have another amount to go.
For December. Thank you. Total team members in the fire department includes the fire chiefs, the fire chief, assistant, the 3 battalions, the administrative employees, the captain, the fire marshal, the 2 fire safety inspectors, which includes the proposed new position, a part-time fire safety inspector, the 72 platoon employees, which includes the 12 lieutenants and the 60 firefighter paramedics, 1 budget coordinator, compliance coordinator, administrative specialist, and administrative assistant too, so for administrative professionals in the office. Some general highlights, there's some planned capital expenses. You can see various amounts that are proposed for improvements like 4 stations. In addition to the amount that's being planned for the station, for the tower improvement project and the grounds improvement, $165,000 for accessory props, just shy of $150,000 in capital routers, life packs, and then with lease payments for 2 engines and 1 aerial, just over $622,000 and $64,000 in vehicle payments, which includes a chief cert purchase of the vehicle from 2025. For the training tower project, the total estimated cost is $2,347,485. That includes the amounts of $189,575 that's been approved by the board for the design engineering, as well as the purchase of the tower and foundation of $903,414. So the balance of what's expected to be requested for approval in the coming months is just over $1.25 million. And the plans have been submitted to the Goose County Engineer's Office for review. We're waiting for the feedback on those. The bidding documents would be distributed over the winter months with an award being presented to the board by March, and construction starting in fiscal year 2026, beginning as soon as April. And there's the continuing collaboration with Sylvania Schools and other partners to help maximize the impact of this project. The other funds, no major changes to report. Fund 435, the fire fund capital, that reflects where those different capital expenses are being expensed, and we'll provide a summary of the revenues and expenses from everyone. And at this time, I'll turn it over to the chief for any updates he may wish to offer.
Well, first of all, with the some changes in our office staff up there, I'd like to thank all of them. We've got 2 new team members that just come on mid-year and learning that process. And certainly I'm going to thank Vicki because she's been a huge help to Jeff and I. This is really Jeff's first time knee deep into to the whole budget process from A to Z. And he's done an exceptional roof. He's been outstanding. Jim puts his final touches on it. And of course, Oliver, he critiques everything. But, you know, that presentation really said that most of it, you know, your upcoming meeting, you're going to be proposing a resolution to purchase another engine, which was included in the levy funding. And I know you've heard it before, but the acquisition timelines for these vehicles is astronomical. You know, and if you weren't aware of it, there's a federal investigation on that whole process amongst ambulance and fire truck manufacturers.
Do you pay the lease when we get it delivered, or do we make payments while it's getting
The
built?
lease will be executed in 2026. And then we have to pick whether we want to do a down payment and when we start to pay. So that's all yet to be determined. Chime in here if I'm not speaking out.
That's the $663,000, right?
No, that was for the other stuff that we're already paying on, the other leases that we already have.
Okay. I thought that was the new, okay.
That's for 2 years.
So you can structure these a little bit different than a car. You can start like the ambulances and the ladder truck we're currently paying on, the ladder truck that we ordered 2 years ago. We're paying on that, and that goes into an escrow fund, so we draw interest on that, not a ton, but we do get interest on that, and then when we get final acceptance, that's when they release the funds to the manufacturer.
Gotcha.
You know, Oliver, you know, our training towers are our biggest project, and I'm gonna, you know, Chief Bennett's been very instrumental in that whole project and really just taking the bull by the horns and done a great job with that. You know, and as this reflects and the levies reflected, you know, our call volume, we're gonna exceed 8,000 calls this year, so we're gonna be up about 11% over last year. Transport volume goes up. That's really all I have to add this time.
Great job, Ruthie, Vicki. And everybody else. Any questions on the board? All righty, thanks, Chris. Hi, Sarah.
That moves us to the police fund. We estimated that at the end of this current fiscal year, when the budget was initially approved, that the department would carry over just over $6.1 million. The department is on track to carry over $6.6 million. This is a good example, first, of the conservative approach of estimating expenses, since the police levies are all voter externally approved voter millages, not inside mills. So this didn't increase by anything having to do with revaluation, and also the management of the police department funds. Fund balance ratio for 2026, comparing the total amount carry over at the end of 2026 to the expenses, is 58.1%. So safely above that 15 to 20% ratio. The 5-year history, the carryover at the end of this year, 6.6 million, very much in line with prior years. There will naturally be some variation based on staffing shortages, capital expenses, but for the scope of the department is fairly consistent over that period of time. We are estimating that fiscal year 2026, we closed at 5.4 million. We do anticipate that coming over, the carryover being larger than that amount, but there are some additional expenses. We do have included in the budget some overlap positions, just like the fire and road, so that the department's able to anticipate departures and retirements. Total estimates from the county, the revenue from property taxes will remain consistent, 8,018,000 being projected in 2026, which is a decrease of roughly $44,000 between fiscal years. Total revenues, $8,067,000, the vast majority of revenues in the police department coming from property taxes. The expenses are projected to increase from just over 8.5 million to 9.278 million, which includes the additional operating costs, labor, some increase in insurance, the workers' compensation, which increased across the board. It also includes the overlapping hires in anticipation of retirements and departures. I believe there's 2 additional positions in the budget. And I know that the capital transfer has decreased from 400,000 to 350,000. Total team members, there's police chief, the deputy police chief, the executive assistant, 2 lieutenants, 7 sergeants, including the detective sergeants, 28 patrol officers, which includes detectives and community affairs, 1 property group manager, and 3 records keepers. The total authorized staffing levels have remained relatively consistent, at least over the last 10 to 15 years. Some highlights: the department plans to finish its growth replacement project. This was started in 2025 and will continue into 2026 for an estimated cost of $100,000. Also planning for painting in some areas and flooring in rooms, estimated cost of $30,000. There are funds that are set aside for some landscaping updates. In terms of vehicle purchases, each year the budget generally provides for the replacement of 3 vehicles. This year that continues that practice, as well as provides for the purchase of 1 unmarked car. And there's also capital equipment expenses, just over $141,000 for the ongoing cost for flock cameras, body-worn cameras, and tasers. Updates on the other funds, no significant changes to report with any of those. I know that the chief works consistently to try to draw different types of expenses that are qualifying from the different revenue sources that come in. I believe the chief is going to mention that here in a moment. The last prepared slide that we have is, this is an update that's been provided for the past several years. Pertains to dispatch consolidation. And when this was initially analyzed by Lucas County in 2019, the department was spending just over $1.1 million on dispatch services. If that amount were to be adjusted for inflation, that would be just under $1.4 million. As it stands right now, the total cost share for the township for dispatch services from the COG is $862,658, and that translates to a conceptual savings of about 38% compared to the prior expenses, or $531,910. At this time, I'll turn it over to the chief.
Question for you. Do you see, and I'm embarrassed because I don't have, oh, you've got the budgets there. On the police.
Yeah.
What, if we go to 5 million at the end of next year, is that going to continue to draw itself down? We'll be at 4 million next following year and 3 million. Is there a drawdown here, or like an issue for a levy in the future? Or can we hold it to 5.3?
Yeah, I would continue that. I mean, if that full amount were to be drawn down, I would anticipate that trend would continue. Right now, I don't anticipate a levy being requested until, I would say, 2029 or 2030. If there would be one that was necessary.
About the same time as the fire department.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Thanks.
So just the part that I would like to add, I want to thank Monica Vasco. She basically maintains, keeps track of everything, prepares our budget for us, makes sure that myself and the deputy chief stay really well informed. Same thing with the whole team over here at Township Hall. Whenever we have a question, everybody works really well together, and that's very appreciated. It helps really keep a pulse on things. As Oliver said, we try wherever possible to, and I thank previous chiefs before me for trying to be very good stewards of the levy monies that we get and the revenue that we have to pay all of our expenses from. This past year, and we always try to be like robustly looking for grant opportunities too. We got $26,000 from the state to help our BWC, our body worn camera costs to help maintain that. And that prisoner extradition where the detectives went to Las Vegas to get the gentleman who they got convicted of all of those charges for the shooting on Crossfields. We were able to get $13,000 reimbursed through the state on that. They covered the travel, overtime, and expenses and things for that. So we're always looking for ways to find money that's available out there through grants and things like that. And then through the money that we get through the partnership we have with DEA and the seizures and things, that's where a lot of those costs, like flock cameras and things like that, we can pay the renewals out of it. Also helps keep us, sustain us and keep us going so that it's longer before we have to look at putting a levy on the agenda, and really try to be always good stewards of the money. Like I said, Monica really helps us keep a good pulse on that. And she's always looking for ways to make sure we're responsibly spending on the trash pickup and services like that, making sure we get comparisons whenever possible.
Good job, Monica. Keep up the good work.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Moving on to the general fund. The general fund at the end of 2025 is estimated to close at just under 11.8 million. Right now, it's on target to close at 12.755 million. That does include a portion of that. It includes the revaluation because like the road and bridge millage, the general millage is also inside and moves with revaluation. The interest earnings during this fiscal year were also, I believe, more than was included in the initial budget. The general fund, the 5-year history shows that at the end of 2026, we would be carrying over just about $12.5 million. So in 2022, it was just under 11 million, and at the end of 2026 would be just under 12.5 million. So relatively stable and consistent over that 5-year period. In terms of revenues in 2025, the county budget rates were 850,800, which was in comparison to 2026, the amount is 1,079,000, which includes the 26.8% increase in line with the revaluation. The total revenues in fiscal year 2026 are estimated at 3.486 million, which is roughly a 15.36% increase from the current fiscal year. So the increase in revenue does tie with interest earnings and the budget reflecting the actual amounts. So 900,000 is estimated for interest earnings in fiscal year 2026. There was a small increase in JED revenue, which is now estimated at $30,000 in line with the development on Central Avenue.
Excuse me.
Did want to note that the cable franchise fees, which are about 10% of general fund revenues, so these have decreased over time as more people have cut the cord and discontinued cable. So at one point, that was $438,000 in fiscal year 2017, 9 or 10 years ago, and estimated to be $330,000 in the next fiscal year. We did want to note in terms of the fee schedule is presented to the board each year for approval. We do have one change in the fee, which is the daily account fee for the police department, which would be decreased from $20 to $17 per day. In terms of expenses, in fiscal year 2026, expenses are estimated at 3.74 million, which is roughly a 19.55% increase from current fiscal year levels of just over 3.1 million. As the board is aware, this includes an increase in the apportionment for the township and the general health district. That's going from just under 291,000 to about 378,000, which includes a 5-year appointment for their acquisition of the building. There's also an increase in the amount paid to the city from the annexation agreement, which also fluctuates with the inside millage in the city. There's an increase in the amount transferred for leaf and brush pickup from 465,000 to 495,000.
Excuse me.
There's an additional annual cost of $64,500 from the county engineer's office. This is for the 10-mile creek right-of-way assessment. So all of the right-of-ways in the county, the assessments paid on those calculated areas. Health insurance continues to be a bright spot of the budget. The increases ranges between 1.35 and just over 5%, depending on the coverage level. We do have an increase in the general fund capital. Included in the budget is roughly $150,000, and we do have some additional details on some transfers that may also be presented to the board during the upcoming fiscal year. And just like the other funds, ongoing increased costs with labor, utilities, and workers' compensation. We did include $15,000 for additional right-of-way maintenance at the Central Avenue and 475, where the grass goes into the interchange, and roundabout maintenance as well.
Did I miss something when I was reviewing the budget? Drone, or $150,000 for drones?
Yeah, there's $75,000 that's proposed, which would be for 3 drones. And then there's 10,000 that would be proposed for training. So the concept would be purchasing 1 drone for the police department, 1 for the fire department, and then 1 for use by administration and zoning.
I just thought I could go to Best Buy and get one for like $300. Wow, I didn't think that. I mean, I can't believe they're that much, but. So let's, real quick on the bond fund. When they sell the bonds out, are they looking at all of, when they look at our ratings, are they looking at all of our departments when they give you the rate that we're gonna borrow the money for Rob's building? Are they looking at, so with the levy being passed just recently, that helped with our bond rating, lower rate, borrow money cheaper?
Yeah,
In theory, right?
so from prior experience, I would say they'll evaluate the funds. Primarily, they'll look at the funds that would be the sources of the revenues. So they would look at the road and bridge fund. They might look at the gas tax fund. They would look at the general funds. Part of the work that we've requested in the scope of services from Plant Moran is to evaluate how much we have in reserves. What might be a reasonable mixture of using a portion of reserves and how much would need to be bonded. So they'll take a look at those metrics. They'll also take a look at local economy, community demographics, average income, stability. I think the approval of local levies, I think, helps add credence to the financial stability of the township. I believe it's been over 10 years since the last bond rating, but level of reserves and general management. So going through the process, they may ask to see our practices with minimum fund balances, our minimum reserve policies, which the board did approve a policy several years ago. They may look at how capital projects and infrastructure is managed. So it's a fairly thorough process.
Thank you.
Welcome. Our team members, myself, our human resources officer, project specialist, part-time administrative assistant, our fiscal team, we have a fiscal assistant, accounting budget supervisor, senior fiscal analyst, coordinator, accounts payable and support specialist, staff accountant, and planning and zoning manager, code enforcement officer, and zoning clerk. This is information that's provided to the board each year. The total cost estimates for household pickup in 2026, we're estimating that will be $132,500, which is really a continued reflection of the popularity of the service.
Popularity, the expensiveness of these services.
The brush pickup, the transfer is proposed to be $495,000, an increase of the current $465,000. In terms of the capital fund, it does include the $150,000 transfer. The budget includes that, which includes $50,000 set aside for improvements at the senior center. So expenses, large capital improvements in the senior center are split equally with the city. It also includes $40,000 that's been set aside for a siren replacement if one is needed during the year. I've gone through the process of replacing one at Case Center Park, just to move it along as quickly as possible. Having that set aside would be helpful. There is a planned expense for digital signage in front of Township Hall here. Would likely be drawn this year, but we are contemplating it throughout the budget process to be prepared. So during fiscal year 2026, we're also anticipating that additional transfers may be requested. $75,000 for the 3 drones, up to $320,000 potentially for overpass improvements at Corey Road, and $500,000 to be set aside for the demolition of the existing road department facilities. So the plan to move to the Silica Road facility, that's really a down payment on the work that would happen here behind Township Hall.
One more stupid question, I'm sorry. So we have $12 million in our general fund, right? I mean, which like we throw millions like it's like, yeah, just millions, right? But just a thought here, why wouldn't you like sprinkle the infield in the fire department, police department to prolong the levy? If that, we've got that much money, and I know that's inside and outside, you can't transfer funds or it has to be an emergency kind of thing, but you know, if we're able to add a little bit on both those divisions, you wonder how long that levy could last longer. I mean, what do we do with $12 million in this account? I'm just speaking for myself here, but I mean, for what?
Yeah, certainly that's.
Do you agree? You agree with me, Emron? Why don't we throw in the fire department, police department, and help Rob out? I mean, they could, that compounding interest and compounding levy monies would last longer than, that's just that's always bothered me. I'm just curious if I'm wrong on that, but.
When I first came on, Dave, you probably have a better memory of this, like, the general fund had loaned money to the fire department, and then we made them, like, that wasn't the right way to handle it. So we went back and had to pay, the fire department had to pay the general fund back. So there is a lot of limitations on what we can do with it, is that?
Yeah, there are, and I think we'd want to not be careful, but do the legal work on it to make sure we're doing, if we decide to do that, to do it like properly. Yeah, so we don't get, it could get embarrassing too. We're,
Well, yeah, again, I'm just throwing that out there. I remember in 2014, that's how long I've been doing it, when we lost the inheritance tax. That was $3 million a year we were getting back in 2014. I guess what I'm saying is when we lost that, we thought it was the end of the world. We had $6 million in the account in 2014. Here we are 10 years later, we got 12. We haven't touched the 6 that we had. I'm just throwing this out for conversation. That's all I'm trying to say is, geez, got this, I mean, we're going to swim in this stuff. I mean, what are we going to do with it? Let's maybe prolong our citizens, have another levy or do something like that in the future. Just my thought, that's all.
well, it might be harder when you think about it, what a levy produces and how much we could actually provide. I mean, it would not be a bad thing to do, but are we going to prolong the fund for a year or 2 or 3? There's not enough money.
Touche, I agree.
Yeah, that would be the only thing. And we might end up, people hearing this and seeing this, but the fact is we need another levy no matter what, because we don't have enough money to really make a big dent in I don't know, it's something
Well,
board.
that's a good point.
I'm not opposed to it at all, but I'm just wondering the bang for the buck that we might get for it, and then we could, maybe if something would come up in the general fund, we could get strapped with it, we could get in some trouble. I don't know if anyone.
Well, again, my concern would be is the police and fire are levying within the year. The potential of that being within a year.
Oh, yeah.
So I just was thinking maybe we just move some money around.
Yeah.
Listen to me, move money around like a big shot.
General fund is the only fund that you can move money between other funds, no other funds you can. And the issue we ran into with borrowing money, they worded the resolution as a transfer, not an advance. The advance is expected to be paid back within a year. Just like with the water and sewer district we still keep that on the books because we still do receive tap fees here and there. So we're keeping track of that as well. General fund does receive the less amount of property tax though, and we don't really have that much other revenue generated. And I think the big bulk of what influxed the general fund was the transfer from the capital fund. They were putting a lot of money into the.
We did 3 million a couple years ago.
And if you can only save money for 10 years,
You're right.
then it has to revert back to the fund.
I forgot about that. You're right. All right. Thanks, guys. Any questions?
So included in the general fund are other ancillary funds that are overseen by administration. The waste and leaf fund, Fund 208, that's the one that receives $495,000 for leaf pickup. The One Ohio Fund, that's where the opioid settlement monies are received. That includes in the proposed budget a $5,000 allocation for some police department activities. I believe it's a $20,000 per fire department purchase of expenses. So as time goes on, there are some targeted uses that are being proposed to be expended from the One Ohio Fund in line with the parameters that are in place for the use of the settlement funds. Fund 219, which is the target sales tax. Each year, the township receives approximately $90,000 from the target sales tax, which is used to support local projects. Fund 220, the senior center, the proposed budget will change with the recent approval of the senior center levy that will be presented to the trustees likely presented to the trustees next year for updating. And
They're not asking us to pay anymore out of there, are they?
correct, that's just to reflect.
So our notice expired on that. We're done paying we used to pay 75 grand.
Yes,
Just paying the senior center.
that's paid off.
Okay.
So just to recap, so the tax bill each year, I take a look at the same house in the farm book subdivision, just to see what is one example of a tax bill by jurisdiction. Like most communities, the largest portion of property taxes, the school district, the school system. For the township, our tax is approximately 21.46, so roughly 21.5% of the tax bill. Breaking that down further, so for this property that has a value of $240,400, their total tax burden is $5,338 per year. So that 21.5% is just over $1,145 per year. Looking at that on a monthly basis, that breaks down to $95.47 per month, which includes varying amounts for fire, general fund, police, road and bridge, and senior services. And in terms of next steps, we do have on the agenda the budget resolution, the approval of the appropriations, as well as the 2026 fee schedule, the cost allocation resolution, which has been prepared in line with the last 2 years of the purchasing policy.
Thank you.
Thanks,
you.
everybody. Appreciate everybody's hard work tonight. Not tonight, but prior, I guess.
We close this up and then.
Yes. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn at 4:54.
I'll second.
Ms. Johnson,
Yes.
Mr. Genowine?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes. Again, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.